Good morning and welcome to the Courage Coalition. Today we're on to have conversations that most people don't want to have and ask questions that might be secretly in your mind and you just don't know either who to ask or maybe just a little too afraid to ask the question. We believe here that when we ask the questions and have the conversations, we create freedom. And today I have Diana Gleason, and Diana Gleason is, oh, wow, you guys, she is energy, she is power. And the only reason I met her is because of social, but I get to meet her in person in just a couple months. And that is so exciting because energy is everything, people. We have to remember that. And so Diana Gleason is the founder of DJ Accounting Agency, DG, I said J, sorry, DG Accounting Agency, a modern bookkeeping firm. She's grown to over 700K in annual revenue with a fully remote team of 14. She's a bold, values-driven money expert. Diana helps founders understand their numbers so that they can make clear, confident decisions as they scale. Known for translating complex financial data into practical insight, she brings a grounded, no fluff perspective to building strong, profitable businesses. Diana works with growth-minded founders who want their finances to support the life and company they've intentionally building. And I want to ask you really quick as listeners, did you just tune me out? Did something in you just say, oh gosh, no, this is not for me. I don't understand anything she said. So I'm going to challenge you right now, double dog dare you to hold on. Because if you did listen, you heard the values-driven money expert. And that's where it's going to begin to make sense. So welcome, Diana.
Thank you for having me, Corey. So excited to be here.
So I want you to tell the story, but I want to just do a little bit of pre-cert here is that you're not an accountant.
No?
You're not a CPA. You're actually, and I'm going to say this, you guys, because you're going to hear me talk a lot about this year. What our culture says, a creative being. You were
Yeah.
a professional or a pre-professional dancer.
A professional dancer. Yes.
Professional dancer. Okay.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that pre-story. What got you here and how can you be such a successful bookkeeping firm owner with really not the financial background?
So, I was raised a dancer. I was a competitive dancer as a kid. I went to performing arts high school. I got a BFA in dance in college. I believe a lot about being an entrepreneur is about resilience and also doing things scared.
Yes.
Um, you need to be able to confidently do both of those things to be successful in business. That's what I believe. And so when you are a competitive dancer and then take it one step further into real life where you get paid to dance, how we get those jobs are on auditions. So I would be in a room with 300 women to get down to 4 that got chosen. I was told no 100 times before I would get one job. And so I really believe that muscle of being told no and stand up and do it again and try again. I believe that's why I'm successful in what I do now. My journey to get there though was a little bit different. I had a hip injury that desked me when right after I got married. I was like 29, and it took me out of the game for an entire year. I had to have physical therapy, a surgery, more physical therapy. I was like with a walker, crutches. I could not use my body. So my dance mom at the time, who was, a dance mentor to me for a long while, she had a friend who owned a nonprofit in the area, and she needed some administrative help, and Diana needed a desk job to make some money. So she hooked me up, and I started working for a nonprofit. And in those 2 years' time, they had a bookkeeper that would come and go from their office. She would jump in 4 or 5 hours a week. Her husband was a CPA, and it was very clear that she did not know how to be a bookkeeper. So she would go home and ask her husband what to do, and then she would come back the next week and do whatever he said. And that was sort of the way it went. And they had identified that. And they said, Diana, you seem pretty smart. This doesn't seem too hard. Can you just learn what she does so that she can stop coming here? And I was like, okay. I'll give it a whirl. And so I did. And that was really how I started to learn bookkeeping. Then, as my hip was recovering, I got pregnant with my now 10-year-old twin boys. And that was a disaster train wreck of a pregnancy. I was like on bed rest from 20 weeks, and I was the vomiting woman daily.
Yeah.
And so, at the time, my husband is in sales. He still is. And he was the breadwinner of the family. We didn't really need my money. We were going to put two babies in daycare for me to work an admin job at a nonprofit. It wasn't going to make sense. So I was ready to, like, I'm going to hang up my hat here. I'm going to have these babies and have my mom era, and we'll see what happens next. And, at the time, my husband had a friend, or I should say like a friend from college, who had a remote bookkeeping firm. And at that time, this is like 2013 maybe, so
Okay.
like 13 years ago, cloud-based accounting firms, this was new.
Right.
Nobody trusted the cloud. This was QuickBooks Desktop. You going to online felt scary. People didn't want their data there. And he was, he had left Wall Street and was like, I'm going to try to do this thing and see if it works. And he had more work, and he was like, hey, I'll teach you how to do it. You can work from bed, on bed rest. I'll send you videos. And so I just started to learn bookkeeping, from bed rest to the NICU. And I just grew a skill set. And furthermore, then what happened was, as we know, most accountants aren't
Yeah.
people. They don't love to talk to people. They like to be in the data and be in the numbers. They don't love to speak. And he was a similar way. So he incentivized me in sales to say, go drive business into the company and I'll pay you a sales commission. Well, I happen to be really, really good at that job. And I could think like a business owner. My mom as a kid, she was a hairdresser, and she always was doing hair in our foyer of our townhouse. And she could hustle like the best of them. Like if we needed $500 extra for a dance competition, she was like, how many more heads can come in here so I can get it done? And so even when I worked in dance, I had worked in several studios. I learned the back ends of many businesses before I opened my own, and I treated those businesses like they were my own. So
Yeah.
it was just a really natural progression for me to then step out of working for that firm. I stayed there 6 years and ended up working full time, as my boys grew. And when I left out on my own while I was scared, it just really was it was my path. Had you asked me in college, I would have thought I'd own a dance studio, not a bookkeeping firm, but here we are.
I love that because, what I take from that story is that one, what you said in the beginning, it's like you can't go into something new without the desire to do things scared, right? Because anything new is going to be scary. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
But that fear keeps so many of us kind of locked up inside, right? The dream is there, it's the goal, whatever it is, the book, the class, whatever it is. And we keep it locked up because we just don't know what's on the other side, and the fear is greater than the joy that you might find.
Yes.
So you really listened. You heard something inside of you. Yeah, part of it was an opportunity, but we all have opportunities. I mean, do you disagree with that? I mean, we all have the opportunities if you're looking for them.
Oh, absolutely. And it's all about your perspective
Yeah.
too. You know what I mean? And I was so scared. I remember we were visiting friends of ours that live in Charlotte, North Carolina for Thanksgiving during COVID. And my friend, he said, why you drove $550,000 of revenue into his company this year? Why aren't you doing that for yourself? And I was like, well, because I don't know how to do that by myself. Who would I ask my questions to? You know what I mean? And he was like, you'd figure it out, I'm pretty sure. And it was like that swift kick in the butt of like, look at what you're building him. Why wouldn't you build that for yourself if he's not open to, you've built
Partnership.
you've built
Yeah.
quite a bit over there for him. You know what I mean? If he's not open to like letting you have some equity or partnership in this, then maybe it makes more sense for you to you'd probably be really successful. And it was
Yeah.
like that little kick in the butt of like, go, you'll figure it out. Like whatever you don't know, you will find the answer. And that did prove to be true.
you know what I love is that there are two things is one, you always hear this is it is figure outable.
Yep.
Everything is figure outable. But two, you had a believer. You had someone say, I believe in what you can do. And we all need believers. And that's why people hire coaches. That's why people hire mentors or have mentors is we need believers
Yeah.
because we are our own worst enemy. We are
Yeah.
going to talk ourselves down to the ground.
Yep.
So I love that you
Absolutely.
mentioned that because he just gave you that belief of, why are you not doing this yourself? And I
Yeah.
think we all start there. I started that way. My sister asked me, why can't you do this? I'm losing my bookkeeper. Why can't you do this? Because I was at home. And I'm like, well, I don't know how to do that. And she goes, yeah, you do. You took the courses.
Right.
But it was that outside of a business, a W 2. Oh, well, I'm not a business owner. You're shy, Corey. Haha, that's funny. All the stories that were told to me were still living in our minds at that point. And so
Yeah.
it's really coming into that place of asking ourselves, what beliefs are we holding as our own that actually don't belong to us? And where do we fit our core values into our life and into our
Yeah.
business, into that whole foundation of who we are? So I would love your take on that. And because my listeners hear me talk about values all the time, but that's just my take. And we all have a little bit different way of explaining it that
Sure.
might resonate with one listener today. And as you guys all know, if we're going to do it, we might as well just say we're going to do it for one because that one person may be the person that creates the ripple.
Yeah. So it's funny, I did not I wasn't even aware to values
Mhm.
until let's call it 2021, 5 years ago.
Wow.
Um, and I had joined a life coaching program, a mastermind with Melissa Wiggins, who I feel like we have mutual
Yes.
friend there. And I was just so attracted to everything she was doing. She became a client of mine, and I was like, "What is this program?" And I think I need it. And inside of that program, she brought in a values expert. His name is Brant Mansoir. He has a book called Black Sheep. If you haven't read it, it's amazing. It's exactly how you can determine what your values are if you're listening and you don't know what values are or what they mean to you or how they show up in your life, and how you can identify them for yourself. He has this great little assessment that you do online, and we did that, and we had some coaching sessions with him, and he helps you to define, what he thinks like are your five core values.
Mhm.
And I adapted that mentality very quickly. And per his teaching, honestly, it was like if your values aren't showing up in your day every day, then your life is not going to feel aligned. You're going to feel on fire on the inside because you're not filling yourself in the way that you're desired to be. So it literally started with calendaring my values and would go, what's this week and what values are showing up? And I still
Yes.
sometimes have to go back to it because when I'm living by my values, I am happier, I'm calmer, and I'm just more authentic to my real self. So because I did that work really when my business was in its baby stages, I have built a company based on my values. I walk them out every day inside of the business, and outside of the business, to be honest with you. And I always go back to them. If this isn't in my values, then it's a no.
Yes. Yes. I mean, what one, no is a complete sentence, but if it's not a part of who I am, it is a hard no. It's not just a no, it's a hard no.
Yes.
So walk listeners, if you don't mind sharing, walk
Mhm.
listeners through your five core values, but how that shows up daily. You talk about daily living and I have shared on multiple episodes how I live in my core values every single day too, Diana. This is like I feel almost like I am ripping off a limb when I start getting too far away. Everything is
Feel
so not okay in my life if my five values are not truth, like
Mhm.
most of the time. And it's not just personal life, it's business too. But what happens, I feel at least, is like when my personal life is so full, like all the things are being checked off as far as my core values, business just happens automatically. When I meet with a new client, it's a hard yes because I'm alive. I am
Yeah.
truth. I don't say yes to things. I'm like, well, that's a question that I have because that's not part of my system, right?
Right.
And I'm truthful. I don't work from that scarcity mindset.
Hmm. So my core values, number one is authenticity. So if I can't be my full self, if it feels like, especially in a client relationship, if it feels like a square peg round hole, it's a no.
Okay.
Impact, when I am creating impact, when I'm helping other people, I feel my best. So impact is number two. Number three is my family. Um, Grant always like goes back and forth if you can have family, because he says that the other one, that mine are actually two, which he calls very similar, family and connection.
Yeah.
Um, and that you are allowed to have both, because I my boys were born at 32 weeks. So we had a lot of medical things in the beginning of their life, and really being close to my family is just, it is absolutely a big value of my life. If they're not okay, I'm not okay. But also, to the next one is connection, because I need to feel connected to the people that I surround myself with. I don't do surface level. I need deep connection. And now I had to think of what the other one is. Authenticity. What did I say? Authenticity, family, growth. Duh. Growth is the last one. Of course it is. Growth is the last one, because I'm a lifelong learner, and I'm just always trying to be better at whatever it is, professionally or personally. I remember I had broke my nose and I had to have surgery about 18 months ago, and in the recovery it was miserable. But I was just watching podcasts on YouTube, like from my bed with all my ice, and my husband was like, "You're just always trying to be better." Like, wow. And I was like, yeah, apparently it's just in my makeup. So if I have to sit here and not be able to work, at least let me like absorb some content that will help me learn and be better on the other side.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, don't you feel like though that if we're not like everything we do is truly about growth, but do you consider yourself a curious person?
Yes.
Yes. See,
So
I
curious.
think I think curious individuals are really growth mindset, right? That's what it is.
Mhm.
It's whether you're learning a new extreme sport, if you're curious about a new book, curiosity is growth. So I
Yeah.
I feel like if curious humans are just typically growth-minded individuals.
Yeah.
So, one of the things you said, and I'm going to go back to this because I have a values test also, and it's actually in the new book, Emotional Money.
Oh, good.
It's very virgin, right? Like that was new to me. An app, I was like, oh gosh, this is not okay because that is definitely my discomfort zone. But I did it because I knew I needed to do my own instead of always sending people to somebody else's.
Sure.
Just do your own imperfectly, Corey. But what I talk about is that one, sometimes we're going to get really stuck. You talked about family and connection. We
Hmm.
get really stuck in the not knowing, right? I can't pick between these two. These two are both important. But a lot of times we can see both in one,
Yeah.
right? To me, family, and this is just my experience, you guys. This is not, and I can't wait to read Black Sheep and remind me to come back to Black Sheep
Mhm.
because I want to know more about values. I am so on fire when it comes to core values. And as I'm raising children, teaching them about their core values, I have a daughter going off to college, like core values are it, sis. Come back to it every single time, right?
Yeah.
But for me, family is not just genetically. Obviously, we have adopted children, so that you have to. I got rid of that idea a long time ago. So when you talk about like being connected to everybody you deal with, family is that word for me because if you don't feel like family, you're not a part of my life.
Sure.
Right? You know what I mean? Like even friends or even new acquaintances, I listen to that internal radar. And that
Yeah.
internal radar says, yeah, this is a good person or this person's not going to be yours. Okay, great. Then you're not part of my family.
Yeah.
And maybe
Yeah.
that's black and white, but I feel like it's also very authentic because I know myself enough to know that if I can't be me in front of that person,
Oh, this is never going to work.
it's never going to work.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's with all the good and the bad. That's with, the mistakes and the successes and the falling first and failing 100 times before you get the yes. All of those things are a part of who I am. And those are the people I need, people that have done the same or want to do the same or hold love in those words
Yeah.
for the same.
Yeah.
So I love that you brought up that, because I think that we can, as people go, maybe they're going to read the book, maybe they're going to take the values test. Remind yourself that sometimes one can be both, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not,
Yeah.
if you, as you're getting them down to those 5, because 5 feels hard or feels like it's a lot, but it's really hard when you're
It's
actually
hard to
going
get it
through
down to 5. Yeah, it is.
it. So I want to use the word black sheep, and you brought up that book, and I don't believe in coincidences. So there's a beautiful poem. I've read it many times. I don't have it in front of me to read to you. It's really long. I will send it to you afterwards, though. And it's called "Maybe the Black Sheep of the Family Are the Lions."
Mm.
And it is this beautiful connection between those that disrupt, those that demand more, those that say, this isn't for me anymore. So when we talk about core values, I talk about beliefs
Yeah.
that were handed to you that actually belong to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
We get labeled in our culture as the black sheep. But what
Mm-hmm.
if we're actually the lions? What if we're
Yeah.
the ones building those foundational roots that change everything for the good?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've been a black sheep?
Oh, I'm a black sheep. I'm a big black sheep. So I was born and raised in an Italian family in New Jersey. My dad being 100% Italian, my mom actually not Italian at all, but just adapted to his ways. And in the Northeast, Italians, they believe everybody needs to live really close by to be
Okay.
family. We've got to, like even just like 2 towns over is too far. Like we need to be like, like on the same block. Like how can we get closer? And you take care of one another, and your family is your responsibility. And so, and there's also this belief in there that happens that you would not be okay if you were not with your family.
Ooh.
Um, and I believe a lot of that is also like the Italian immigrant mindset, probably that's like scary bit of, moving from one country, immigrating in. My dad's mother, my grandmother, was from Italy. She came here at 15, scared, to an arranged marriage to my grandfather. So I think a lot of how my dad was raised came from fear. And that marriage didn't work out. They had 4 kids, and then his life got a little scary too. So he really wanted to hold us so close, to the point of scaring us that if we didn't stay close, we wouldn't be okay.
Yeah.
And just about 3 years ago, I uprooted my entire family and moved to Florida, where we live now. And that was the biggest black sheep move ever. And I still pay the price of that a little bit. But I do believe that I am the lion. I'm rewriting the story. I'm showing them we can FaceTime and it's like the same. Also, how fun is it to just come visit a beautiful place and have time together? What we would do is we would get together on a Sunday for dinner and everyone would just scroll their phones and the kids would run around and there wasn't real connection inside of the rooms. Now, when we intentionally plan a week together at different points of the year, we are all fully paying attention. We get more out of those visits than we ever did for the 2 or 3 hours when we were around the corner. So yeah, I'm a big black sheep in my family.
Okay, so that hit so perfect. I mean, like, personally, it's always about what it hits me. I mean, let's be honest. But we moved also. And I'm not going to say I was raised in a family like that. My husband definitely was, but when we moved, that had kind of all crumbled already because my mother-in-law had passed away. So, but that connection in his family was definitely that way. It's like, you stay close, the family's everything, no matter what, right? Like, no matter what they do to you, no matter what, they're everything.
And then also there's that piece of, after all I've done for you,
oh yes,
how dare you go?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And this is about me. This is what I've done. But when we moved, what I realized is that even though I'm so happy we moved and this is where we're at and this is home, that I want more. I actually want a second home. And
Me
that second,
too.
yeah, and that second home is in Costa Rica.
Nice.
And I sat with that before I spoke that out loud for a long time because I was like, my children, what about my children? What about my grandchildren? Right?
Right.
What about all the excuses? And I realized that because we're a every Sunday family too. So there's 14 of us just in my immediate families between the six
Wow.
kids and the grandbabies and the daughter-in-laws. We're together every Sunday. But what you just described as your family, I'm not going to say it's all the time, but it's part of the time, right?
Right.
The scrolling. We're not even having it. I'm sorry, an effing conversation.
Right.
And I'm like, this isn't this isn't legacy. This
Yeah.
isn't connection. This is just showing up. And so my husband and I were talking recently, and my two older boys are much younger or much older than my four younger. And when they were younger, we spent a lot of time on the lake in a boat with
Mm.
his family.
Right.
And we've been wanting to duplicate that for years. Not duplicate it, but bring it to the picture of our family. And so we were looking at each other and we're like, we're buying a boat before June because Sundays are going to be on the lake.
Boat days.
Because we
Nice.
live like 3 minutes from the
Oh,
Clark
that's
Fork
awesome.
Reservoir. It's beautiful, right? So there was that intentionality, right? Like, no, we're going to change it. But when you said that, what I realized is that 1 week of connection in Costa Rica as my family gets older is so much more valuable
Yes.
than how many Sundays are there? 52 Sundays in a year for a couple hours,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And going back to those values, right? Like it's not just about what has always been, it's about what can be.
Yeah.
So when I say that, I would love to know how do you help business owners? Because there is a lot of small businesses that listen to my podcast. How do you help business owners really build their businesses from that value-based system, not just life, but like their business? Because we're taught that you build business a certain way.
Yeah. I'm like an all things are possible type of person. So when my clients work with me, for most come to me, they've already have an established business of some sort. They're making money. They need a bookkeeper to get them organized and understand where is all the money going and is it makes sense, right? So we're looking at it at that way. But a lot of times in those conversations, I just had a client meeting yesterday when she was working from home and she had two small kids, and I could just see all over her face that she was like embarrassed, that she was like, her 3-year-old needed to use the bathroom and she couldn't be right in with me in the meeting. And I was like, hey, I'm a mom too. You need to
Yeah.
just take a minute. It's not a big deal. Like, our we want to build a business that aligns with the life that we want to live. And if the business isn't providing that, then what are we even doing? And that's my philosophy all of the time with my clients. So that's just like ground zero when you work with me. It's like if I can detect psychologically that you're not happy, even though if it looks profitable, but you're not happy, I'm going to just call it out and ask you about it. And like, what could we change to make it feel better? Because the whole point of being an entrepreneur is freedom, if you ask me. And if you feel constrained or trapped in some way that you're not happy with, then likely there's an easy fix to that. And with the numbers, we can figure it out and make a plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because it comes back to your number one value, authenticity, right?
Yeah.
And and I think that, when we show up authentic in our businesses, we attract the people that we want. Because if they don't like us in that fashion, then they're not going to like us in business, right? Because that's who we
Absolutely.
are.
Yeah, and the other part is too is that when I show up authentically and I can, I don't bullshit.
I love it. Yes.
I'm going to always tell you how it is, even if it's good or if it's bad.
Yes.
And I do believe that me doing that gives them permission to do the same.
Yes. Absolutely. When you say that, it's funny. It's not funny. It's beautiful. It's that I actually had a coaching client because I do some one-on-one financial coaching also, and that was exactly what happened. Is we got to like week 4 or 5, and I was like, "There's not enough. You can dream all you want, but you're not making enough, right?"
Right.
And it was you could see it immediately. She was mad. She was upset. But better yet, she didn't really make any decisions. She didn't say anything. And she just came back the next week and she said, it's exactly what I needed to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Because we believe that if we just follow a system, it's going to work. But not if you don't understand what's coming in and going out.
Exactly. You know,
Right?
one of my clients, same thing. She's a psychotherapist, and we met in January and looked at the end of the year and what happened. And I was like, all of a sudden, your revenue soared in Q4. What happened? And she said, well, in every video you sent me, you just kept saying that I needed X at the top to support my payroll. So we got on it, and I put all of my everybody that books appointments and people canceled, we were chasing them, and I just made sure that I got that visit number to what I needed it to be to support it. And it was you in my ear every month in that video telling me that that was what I needed to do. So I just did it. Right. But if we can take messy action and not be offended by the numbers or make it about us or mean something about us, just like, here's the goal,
Yes.
here's the plan, this is how you should execute that plan, and you follow the steps, it does work.
Yeah. It's evidence. And we
Mm-hmm.
we we don't want to look at the evidence because we're ashamed, right? It comes back to all those emotions. We're ashamed, or
Yeah.
we start telling ourselves, well, see, obviously you were right. You can't be a business owner or whatever the story is, right? But it's evidence to change. It's evidence for growth. It doesn't mean anything except
Right.
for this is how we take the next step.
Yep.
Oh, that's so good. So I love that. And, it's interesting because one of the things that I think we get stuck in is just that next step, right? I've gotten here, and I'm saying this because I just said the word evidence. I've gotten here, so I'm just going to stay, right? I've gotten to the accolade, I've gotten to the goal, so I'm just going to stay here because I know I'm safe. I know I can do this. I know how.
Yeah.
I would love for you to walk us through a little bit about really your own evolution and having maybe even getting to that point of saying, you know what, I've made it, but I'm not quite where I want to be. Maybe that's growth. Maybe that's actually taking a step back. You talk about being a mom and having, 10-year-old boys. I mean, their lives are getting busy.
They are.
How do you, or how have you worked your values into the next growth cycle for you? But sometimes growth cycle sometimes maybe is removing yourself or
Sure.
hiring so that you can remove yourself, right? I mean, your bio talks about you have a remote team of 14. That's not a small job. That's a big job. And when you talked about your initiation into the business where cloud-based was really not evolved. I mean, we have to have an SOP for everything when you have a team. Everything, every little thing. But and I'm gonna go one more step because I think you're gonna bring it all into the same thing is that one of the things that I've asked you before in a conversation, we were just having a coffee chat one time, is your systems. And Diana, what I love about you is that you haven't followed the bandwagon on systems. You've kept
No.
it simple and you've kept it authentic. You're hearing the same words over and over again to what was working for you. And that was such a permission slip for me because I have systems, but I don't want all the systems. It's so overwhelming and it's a waste of my time. But I didn't know, one, can you be successful? Right? Can you? And two, giving me that permission slip, whether we want to own it or not, it's a believer.
Sure. You know, systems became necessary inside of my business. But when I started, I was really scrappy. I was a one girl show. You know, I had a couple of clients in my hands and I serviced them for maybe the first 8 months and kept just like word of mouth, doing a good job. And somebody would refer me someone else and do a good job. And then I had, okay, enough work that I need to hire somebody else to help me do the work. And that pattern continued to repeat itself. And it really was my now chief of operations was my first full-time hire. Her name is Mary Elizabeth, and she's lovely. And she came into work for me as just she was my first full-time hire bookkeeper. And she took like 3 days to set up her own systems about how she was going to work at my business that had zero systems. And I was like, what are you building out of it? Can you show me that spreadsheet you have where you're keeping all track of all the bank accounts and stuff? Because like I'm doing everything by memory because
Right.
the place I worked at before had no system. So I'm just doing what I was taught. You know what I mean? And slowly but surely we realized that her operational background was exactly what we needed to build out the team and the what I mean, blessed, but also I think is you know, the result of really good customer service is what I will say is how so much of my business is referred business. So most of the time I'm hiding under my desk from clients, like new people that want to work with us because it's like I can't onboard another one and then I have to hire another person. You know, it like becomes
Right.
the whole thing. So because we had so much I had so much sales coming in, so much input, there came a time where it was like, if we're going to scale this thing, we have to have systems and we have to have people follow the systems. But what I think happens in the accounting industry, or really for anybody
Yeah.
starting a business, is you think you have to have it all figured out and you need to have every single system in place before you even start. And what I can tell you is that Mary Elizabeth, who's my chief of operations, if she were to open her own business, that's exactly what would happen to her. She would have to have it all figured out before she could take one client because it would panic her to not.
Yeah.
Where for me, I was just always like, if I can get the business, I'll figure out how to operationalize it. Like we'll just figure that out. I wasn't as worried about the details. And I think that's more always the visionary of the company driving it forward. And then you've got someone sort of sweeping up behind you to be like, how is it going to work? And Mary Elizabeth has really done that for me. But anytime someone wants to start a new business, I'm like, go test the thing. See if you
Yes.
can do it. See if you can generate some money. See if there's some profit, if there's some margin. And if there is, all right, now let's figure out the systems. But I'm always like, don't waste all the time in the systems until you've really proven the concept that what you're doing here makes sense.
I love that. I love that because again, it comes back to that fear. It's like you can let fear stop you forever. Fear of what's not going to work, fear of what's going to happen, fear of not earning. But until you know, you don't know.
Right.
And I have a client, and when I started my bookkeeping firm, I was all lawyers,
Oh, wow.
long,
That's hard accounting
but
too.
I love it because I mean, come on, there's a little bit of nerdy in you that loves just like all the balances. I mean, when you have a client trust account, there's a
Yeah.
lot of balances happening.
Yeah.
So I do love that part of it, but I love that I've expanded because it keeps me interested. It's not
Hmm.
just the same thing over and over again. But she started tattooing. So she opened her own tattoo
Oh,
business.
cool. I think you told
And
me.
she was of that mindset is like, I'm just going to start. And I'm like, yes, just start. We'll figure it out as we go along. We're
Yeah.
going to play, because she's not my most diligent client, but I'm like, I'll keep you accountable. Just start, because until you know, you don't know. And it'll stop so many dreams from happening, right? And we can do both businesses in the same file. I know there's probably people cringing at that are in the bookkeeping field, but classes are beautiful for a reason, right?
Yep.
Until we know, right? Until we have to keep them separate, let's just keep them all in the same place. It
Yep.
gives you the evidence, right?
Mhm.
So I love that. And I think that's one of the reasons I mean, for lack of a better word, I just knew you were one of my humans, is that you
Mm.
just owned that. You have this huge company and you own that it doesn't have to be so freaking complicated. It
No.
gets to be what works for you, because I was you, or I am you, honestly. I've only had this business for a few years. I have just been gradually building, gradually, very slow to kind of figure this out. As a stay-at-home mom for 20 years, I was like, what does it look like to work and be the primary breadwinner, right? But also realizing at the same time is like, you can either stop, but if something happens to you, it doesn't matter. It's all in your brain,
Yes.
right?
And that is the need for the systems because
Yes.
once and even when I was by myself, I can remember like the vacations we would go on and I'd be like paying people's bills and running their payroll and being like how does this ever get easier? Because there are all these deadlines and deliverables that only I can do.
Yeah.
And you know, you do though have to get to a certain point of top line revenue to be able to hire people to operationalize those things so that you're not one man deep. And then to take it further, like great example, my brother's a payroll administrator. He works full time for a payroll company. So I was like, hey, I'm sick of running payroll on vacation. So do you want to have a side job, of working as a part-time employee for me on top of your full-time job and take all the payroll? And he was like, yes, I need the extra money. I would love to do that. But then, furthermore, his wife, my sister-in-law, had a heart attack in October and they were in the hospital and it was a scary thing. And it was like, oh my gosh, Joe's over there on payroll island and nobody knows what he does. And now he's at the hospital and we better figure that out. He can't be, I couldn't be one man deep in it. And now he's one man deep in it. And now we've got to,
Yeah.
again, fix another system because you can't have that either as the business starts to scale well beyond. And, you've got more and more clients. It's just we've got to have cross training and SOPs for everything.
And and I hope people listening to this just take a step back and don't get overwhelmed for a second, because when we talk about an SOP, and maybe you don't even know what that means, it's a standard operating procedure. It is literally a video.
Yep.
It can be a video. That's actually all it needs to be, is a video that you can also have transcription, because remember, people learn differently. Some people want to watch and do, some people need to read. That is good business ownership, to be able to meet the new employee wherever they're at. But it's a video, and these are short videos, because again, you're not going to do everything in one SOP. Your SOPs are so refined that you are taking a step back and saying, okay, what is the one step I want to teach here? What is the one process I want to teach here? And it literally can be as simple as opening the payroll administrator or opening the Excel sheet for this client, right? We have to get very specific. And then, and I shouldn't even go in there, but then creating client notes instead of different SOPs for every client.
Right, exactly. Then we have notes, and then we have a standard procedure that we follow across the board for everybody.
Right. But I will say, like, you guys, in all vulnerability here, I've just started this year, because it dawned on me this year, like, I can't grow, which I was telling myself I didn't want to grow. Honestly, but then I was all of a sudden that belief was, oh, haha, Corey, you're funny. But I was also given an opportunity to bring someone on that is my ideal person, because I believe, like, for me personally, like if I sit there and think about my business, I want to support those people, like you said, for your brother.
Right.
I want a side gig, who are retired and didn't get enough saved, right?
Sure.
Stay at home mom, right? That wants to do that. And so though I have this ideal employee or this ideal contractor in my mind, and they came to me and I was like, okay, there's no such thing as coincidences.
Yep. So true. So true.
So we could probably go on forever. I hope that everyone really kind of pulled something from this that was outside of my verbiage on value-based living, on what it means to build intentionally, not perfectly, but intentionally. But I ask everyone, what is your definition of courage? And Diana, you wrote, my definition of courage is doing the thing scared. When you are scared, it usually means growth is going to happen. And when you feel fear, lean into that with courage.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's so the truth. And it's something I'm actually really trying to teach my kids right now, because they're getting ready to turn 11, and we're in this place of starting to have some self-awareness. And, like my son was just playing basketball, at a basketball season, and he's the shortest guy on the court and the least strong. And there was this bit of it being uncomfortable and it being hard and not wanting to try because, you know what, I'm just not good at it.
Yeah.
And explaining that none of us are good at anything when we first try. That's just fact. Yeah. There might be some things that come more naturally than others, but we all have to try to make things work. And so I truly, truly believe that courage is just exactly that, is doing the things scared, because new things are scary. But if
Yeah.
we can show up anyway, if we can try anyway, there's usually always something better on the other side of that.
Oh, I love that. And it's so true. When you say that, I have my 11-year-old son is the same way. He is the smallest. He was a preemie. His genetic line is very small, and he loves basketball and football, like sports that are typically for the big kids, right?
Big tall
And
kids.
I just said, it is always going to be hard if you keep telling yourself it's going to be hard. You
Right.
have got to do the work, put in the reps, do the work. And we'll bring up like, was it Spud McKenzie? Is that his name? The basketball player that's so tiny. I said, he didn't get the first cut on the basketball team. He did the work, right?
Right.
And it's teaching them to step into those things that fill them up with fear, because that's passion, that's purpose, that's how we
It
make
is.
impact, right? We all have strengths. We are all born with some kind of strengths, and
And
those are beautiful and they're for us. But we
and I
also
think
have things that,
too,
go ahead. Yeah.
I think too, it's what builds mental resilience.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that's such an important thing to teach our kids, but I mean, I'm teaching it to my clients
Yeah.
and my team of like, this isn't going to be perfect. It's not going to go good the first time. It's going to suck before it gets better, but we will get through it. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
and you can apply that same lesson in your personal life, in your professional life, to your kids, to your friends, to your colleagues. It's You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the only way to grow and be successful.
And follow the dream, right? If it's in you, it's for you. So don't break your own heart, is what I want to say, is don't break your own heart by saying it's too hard. So
Yeah.
Diana, I will drop how people can find you here. I am just, again, I'm so excited that we were able to have this conversation, but also like that I get to meet you in person, and I cannot wait to hear what you bring to the Wave Conference, because I know that it's not going to be that typical black and white accounting
Accounting
information.
jargon. It's not. Because that's not
And,
me.
and that's the only reason I go to Wave, is because it's the only one I've found so far that feels right to me,
Yeah.
that these are women that are building something different. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys, if something aligned with you, if something touched you, remember the best way to share is, for Diana, for me, is just to share it, download it, and leave a review. And as always, love you, mean it.